well, Gwen. How are you?
I'm doing well. This is our backstage at the Metals Investor Forum, which clearly the whole thing was virtual to begin with, so the backstage is also very virtual. But let's catch up to let's focus on a few of the things that you were addressing in your presentation. I want to dive into some of those a little bit more. Specifically, one of the things that I'm looking for a lot in companies that I'm talking about these days and investing in is companies that have the ability to keep working this summer, can keep generating noise and excitement and results into what I think is going to be a market a little bit short on those just when it's super keen for them because this gold market is building, because COVID is interrupting so many things. So Northstar is well positioned for that, in that you have results that are literally like core is like being sent to the lab right now. So let's just focus on the drilling that you did and the drilling that you will do. Talk about the drilling that you did, what the focus was, and what you're hopeful for, what you're optimistic about, what you're looking for in the results that are coming out in the next little bit here.
Okay, certainly. Now, Northstar, we commenced the 3,000 meter drill program on our Miller Gold property at the end of February. It took a little while, but we got it going, and we're making great progress. And it wasn't until early April where we reluctantly but responsibly had to suspend drilling just due to the COVID outbreak. We were experiencing a number of complications and a few illnesses very close to home, so it just had to happen. And that's just the responsible thing to do. So we did manage to drill 2,200 meters, 13 holes. Half as you remember, there is a historic estimate on the property, so 2,700. 270,000 ounces, 11.5 grams. It was calculated in the late 80s, predicated on 37 holes. So it's a very shallow, high-grade gold resource, and about half of that resource actually occurs on our property. We do have the entire down dip extent of it, so with this drill program, we wanted to put a few holes within this resource area just to validate it and get a warm feeling that we're dealing with something that was real. The other half of the holes that we drilled were towards the north. There were deeper holes, and they were focused more on the allied cyanide, which is the heart of this entire alkalic mineralizing system from the work that we've done to date. So those holes are consequently deeper and longer. But so we're processing that core. With this downtime, it's given us the advantage or the opportunity to really take a look at things closely. Our last hole is being logged right now, if you don't believe it, and it should be going to the lab here this week. I went on the record last at MIF saying that we'd have our results out by the end of May, and they will definitely be out by the end of May. So the focus was to partially validate the resource, as well as drill some key holes on obvious areas within the allied cyanide. And we're waiting on results, anxiously waiting on results for those.
Anxiously, I'm sure. So that was your first, certainly as at the head of Northstar, your first drill effort into the property. So I'm sure you're anxious to see those results. And those were, of course, the first two areas that you were going to test. But you and I are both interested in this project certainly for more than only that historic resource. The historic resource, as you highlight, is interesting because 11 grams at surface, that's an interesting thing to look at. Of course, you want to validate what that is and then see if you can chase it down dip. Like you say, the down dip extent is all onto Northstar's ground. So that, great starting point. And I still think that Northstar, maybe you share this perspective, is a bit of an under-recognized story. This whole project is a bit forgotten. So, the market might be interested to see if there's results like that at surface and you can report them. I think those might grab some attention. And then you can also tell the story of these other targets that you want to look at. And of course, you've used this COVID downturn to model everything as much as you can and be really ready for this next drill program. So let's talk about what you want to do in the next drill program. It's going to be more than the targets that you were looking at in this one that you got, the first program that you got to do at least sort of 2/3 of.
Oh, exactly right. Yeah, whatever the next phase is, if it's phase 1B or we're going to call it phase 2, whatever, we are currently using the model that we put together to help target additional holes. And we've got a couple of different plans right now. We still haven't figured out exactly which way we're going to proceed, but certainly the allied cyanide target is going to take the lion's share of the drilling. We're very encouraged by what we've seen there historically, as well as what we're seeing going forward. So that's going to be our principal focus. The whole Miller property is a very large alkalic mineralizing system predicate centered over these cyanites. You know, the property in its own right is a historic Boston Creek mining camp. There's been interest there for a very long time. 11 shallow shafts on the property, lots of workings. Major companies in the past, Tech, Oban, have been on the property, have worked the property to various degrees. It's been on a lot of people's radars, but it's never really been drilled that deep or explored that thoroughly. So that's what we're doing. In June, we're going to kick off a $350,000 geophysical survey. It's going to involve 3D IP, mag, gravity, which is going to really help us. And this is property wide, and this is really going to help us target additional mineralization associated with not only the allied cyanide, but the Planet and the Mueller cyanide. We've got 2 other cyanides on the property. So we'll get a much better appreciation of the 3D geometry and controls, mineralization and targets going forward. So yeah, as soon as we get a green light and we know we can start drilling responsibly and safely, these will be the areas that we'll tackle and try to find out more about.
Yeah, for sure. And one of the things certainly about this whole project is, like you said, like you've talked about here, there's different kinds of mineralization, right? So the veins that the old timers, so to speak, were really excited about, obviously high grade, that's what they're going to go for. The cyanites are the centers of the system. They don't have 11 grams throughout, but they're when they're mineralized, they can also be really healthy targets.
Absolutely. There's still very high grade gold, telluride veins, narrower veins, intercepts within the cyanites. The number 1 vein, which is the resource, we've traced it through the cyanide and actually out to the north side of the cyanide. So these veins are very robust, and they have a lot of, you know, they're excellent targets in themselves. But the cyanites, especially particularly the allied, appears to be the main heart of the system where a lot of the fluids were coming up. So you have and the number 1 vein is emanated from that in a big way. I have no question about that. But there's additional styles of mineralization, more vertical, right up the core of the cyanide, and additionally the other cyanides we've seen, great broad shear zones and mineralized, you know, high grade as well as low grade along the margins of the cyanide. So at the end of the day, you know, if there's a 1 million ouncer on the property, it's going to be associated with those cyanites much more so, and you're going to get a mine wrapped around something that's going to include the cyanites more so than, you know, high grade shallow veins kind of out in the volcanics. It's all going to add to it, but the heart and soul of this thing, and like, you know, you said earlier, this is that's what we're going for, is the meat of the system, and we, you know, we're just getting into that now.
Exciting. Well, COVID delays notwithstanding, it's going to be an exciting summer for you out there. I'm sure you wish that COVID weren't, as all of us, wish that COVID weren't sort of standing in the way, causing problems, causing illnesses, even within your own team. But, you know, you get through it, as we all are on a social level getting through it. And it does sound like you will be able to get out there and get working. Timeline, you know, we don't know. We're going to have to wait and see exactly how restrictions work and how comfortability develops with drillers and communities and all that. But it does sound like you're going to be able to get out there and work, right?
Absolutely. No, we're in a pretty good situation, actually. And when you look at things, you know, we have cash, we have the ability, we're waiting on results. You know, I think we're pretty close to being able to resume work. Ontario's, you know, things have settled down there. and everyone's cautiously stepping out and seeing what we can get away with. So we're going to have to be diligent. We're going to have to be aware. But I'm hopeful that we will be able to carry on again and just do it in a resume work and just do it in a responsible fashion. And we have no shortage of targets. And so it's I'm still very, very excited about our prospects going forward.
Fantastic. Well, thanks for taking the time, Brian, and for giving everyone a little bit more color on Northstar. And of course, if anybody has any questions for Brian, he's easy to find on Northstar's website. And thanks. We'll talk to you again soon, maybe when there's some results to report.
Sounds great. Looking forward to it, Gwen. Thank you.
All right.